Hello, and welcome to Unliving the Lie, a podcast where we delve deep into the insidiousness of narcissistic abuse, sociopathic abuse, and domestic violence. I'm your host, Candace Renee Moon. I am a writer, a DV survivor, and a trauma-informed coach. I work with adult men and women to help them create happy and healthy relationships on their terms. Today is a topic that I haven't really talked about at great lengths, and I think it's time that we talk about it. Today's podcast is Unmasking the Female Abuser. In recent months and times, there's been more than a couple, exposures of some high-profile females that have been abusing their male counterparts, and I want to talk about it. Narcissists are capable of intricate facades and carefully crafted lies, no matter their gender. Now, according to the American Psychiatric Association, 50 to 75% of those diagnosed with NPD are male. However, narcissism is not confined to one gender, or it's not confined to one gender or sexual identification. It's found in women, and I believe it's much more common than we think. Women can be abusive just as much as men can be abusive. The issue is that women are socialized differently than men. And we're going to get into that, and we're going to get into why our society rationalizes female abusers, rationalizes the behavior, and why we need to just take the gender out of it. Abuse is abuse. We need to take the gender out of that. Simply because studies show that males are more narcissistic than females, this doesn't mean women aren't capable of abuse. If you have experience with narcissism, then you already know these disordered individuals never seek help for their maladaptive behaviors. They just blame everyone else around them. So just because these studies show that it's mostly males that are diagnosed, it doesn't mean anything, really. Think about it. There's women that women just aren't being punished. Female narcissists aren't getting punished by society the way male narcissists are being punished. And narcissists in general, they don't go to seek help. So a female narcissist that's being protected by society and protected by the people around her, she's not going to be getting help. And she's probably most likely going to be diagnosed with BPD or something like that. And they're not going to see the narcissism. Grossly inflated egos combined with a victim mentality mean the narcissist believes they're never at fault. The abuse that men and women report from their female narcissistic partners or narcissistic mothers is the same pain that a female abuse victim feels from her male abuser. Abuse knows no gender. I'm going to say it again. Abuse knows no gender. Abuse is abuse. Abuse does not need to be physical or result in bruises to be considered painful. And it doesn't solely exist for women. Women are not the only humans that are abused by female abusers or male abusers. In my opinion, all of the female abusers that should be part of this research fall under the radar because we live in a society that protects female abusers, particularly if you're attractive, young, and white. Yes, I said it. So we're going to be discussing some reasons why I think female abusers are so insidiously menacing. They are chameleons. That's the first thing. The female abuser is a chameleon. Like all narcissists, female narcissists are deeply insecure. So in an attempt to mask their insecurities or flaws, female narcissists tend to be overly concerned with their physical appearance and their social image. Male narcissists are similar, but remember, society conditions females in a different way than males as we grow up. Women are taught from a little tiny person that your physical appearance is very, very important. You're a princess. You must be pretty. Boys are not taught that you must be pretty. Women are taught that. So the physical appearance for the female narcissist is incredibly important, more so than the male narcissist. Even though the male narcissist is identified by their physical appearance, my abuser thought, he would go out and wear his leather jacket. We'd be in the grocery store and he'd comb his hair and wear this leather jacket, trying to be sexy just to get women, the other moms in the grocery store to look at him. So yes, the male narcissist will do that as well, but not to the level that the female will. Female narcissists often overestimate their attractiveness and display or flaunt their physical attributes to get supply. Just like I just said, my abuser would try to display his good looks to get supply. It's not the same as when a woman does it. It just isn't. And a lot of these female narcissists, they think that their physical appearance has more power than it actually does. They overestimate themselves. Because you can be so beautiful, but if your heart inside is dead and black and cold, none of that physical appearance makes a difference. And like I just said, women are socialized to objectify themselves. A narcissistic woman uses this social norm to assert her power. So, like I already covered, women are conditioned from the time we're little girls to use our physical attributes, and that our physical attributes are the most important. And the female narcissist will exploit this. They have the ability to morph into all different kinds of fictional characters. I'm sure most of us would not be surprised to learn that many of these online female Instagram models, these OnlyFans models, they exploit their own bodies to get significance and supply. The life they live in reality is vastly different from the life they present on the computer screen. And many of them are experts at painting up their face with so much makeup that they actually look like a completely different person. And when they take all that makeup off, all the hair extensions, all the fake eyelashes, and there's nothing wrong with makeup and fake eyelashes, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with those things. I enjoy them. When I got married, I did myself up. But these women on these OnlyFans women and these Instagram women and these models, they paint themselves up like this. And then when it all comes off, they just look like a regular plain girl. And it's not shocking to realize that most of them are narcissists and they're just trying to get supply. And speaking of OnlyFans models and female abusers, Courtney Clenny. I'm sure many of you have seen the news. She's still in jail right now. Her trial has not started, but she was charged with first-degree murder for fatally stabbing her boyfriend. And if you watch any of the stuff, you can go to YouTube and watch all the stuff if you've not heard of her or you don't know what this is. But she makes herself look sad and pathetic in her mugshot. And her defense is that she was defending herself. She didn't stab him. She just threw the knife. Like, really? Are you a Viking? Are you a knife thrower? No, I don't think so, honey. You stabbed him and killed him in a narcissistic rage. And yes, they did have a toxic relationship, but in these abusive type relationships, there's always, I just get very triggered and aggravated when I hear victim shaming and, oh, well, it takes two. Well, they both were toxic. Oh, well, it was mutual abuse. I just don't believe that mutual abuse is a thing. I do believe that there are toxic relationships and some people should not be together. And that is true. But when it comes to abuse, like this woman was abusive. Like she would scream at this man so hard her voice would go hoarse. I mean, she sounded like an animal, like just an animal screaming at him. And there's recordings of it. Like they lived in a private penthouse and they had their own elevator up to their private penthouse because she was making millions selling photos of her body. And she's claiming self-defense and that he abused her. I don't believe in mutual abuse. There's always a dominant aggressor. And from everything I've seen and watching these videos on YouTube, listening to the recordings, that he made on his phone, she was the aggressor and the abuser, and he was constantly trying to calm her down. And there might have been some reactive abuse on his part, but she was the abuser. She, in my opinion, is a female sociopath abuser, but she does herself up. She looks, she puts on all that makeup and those hair extensions and all of that, and makes tons and tons of money on her physical appearance. But that's what they do. That's what the female abuser will do. That's how she can hide in society. This woman, Courtney Clenny, she is a petite blonde. I guess some say she's pretty. I think without her makeup, she's just a very plain Jane girl. There was a video that came out because at first I think the police fell for her crap. They didn't arrest her right away. I think the police looked at her as this tiny petite blonde, and he was a black man. And even though it was never brought up, I still think that the police were biased and wanted to believe her as being a victim, and she was just defending herself. And this is what society does. The police let her get away. She went to Hawaii or something. I mean, I guess she checked herself into rehab in Hawaii. I believe it was Hawaii. It was somewhere tropical. And she felt like she got away with it. I was defending myself. He was abusing me. They automatically believed her. Bullshit. Now she's in jail, though, awaiting trial, but still, the initial scene was a crime scene. It was a homicide, and they didn't even put it as, they let her get away. It just aggravates me. You can tell in my voice, it just aggravates me how she just got away. But then a video came up. A video was released. It was a camera in an elevator, and she was assaulting him. It was right there in the video. Assaulting him. This petite blonde that was just defending herself against her boyfriend. He was abusing her. Just like the Amber Heard thing. She's caught on video, abusing him. When a female narcissist is handling a lot of stress, like when they're engaged in an argument with their partner, they disassociate from any of the positive feelings they may have had toward their partner while they experience negative feelings. Now, males do this too, but female narcissists and female abusers tend to get way more psychotic and emotional, and they become like toddlers having a tantrum. They're unable to see or feel anything except for their tremendous rage, anger, and frustrating. They only think about what they are experiencing. And that's what this Courtney Clenny woman did on many, many occasions throughout their relationship. She was a toddler having a tantrum, just screaming at him to go find her cell phone. I mean, if you guys if you guys go on YouTube and look up this woman and the recordings that he recorded of her secretly on his phone, and he probably was doing it like all of abuse victims do. We all get to a point where we just are like, are we the crazy ones? I got to record this and have evidence because I don't think I'm the crazy one, but he was recording her. You can find those recordings on YouTube, and the way this woman screamed like a maniac, like a monster, is just like, wow, just wow. And these female abusers, there's no real fixed sense of identity or sense of self. They just latch onto and copy from the latest person they're in a relationship with, be it romantic or a friendship. So they will just create these false personas like all narcissists do. But the female is much more clever at the way she does it because, like I said, women are conditioned to sexualize themselves and use their physical appearance to attract relationships. They're much better than the male narcissist at playing the perfect match in terms of enchantment and seduction in the bedroom. They will be very seductive. She'll pretend to be everything you've ever wanted her to be by matching up perfectly to your preferences and your desires. When she's done with her latest victim, all of those traits just fall away like they never existed. The process will then begin all over again with someone else, the new traits, interests, and values that she mimics are often the complete opposite from the ones in the previous relationship. The female narcissist is not genuinely interested in things like character and values unless it's used as part of her false image. So, female narcissists are very, very good at being chameleons and using their physical appearance. They're very good at playing the meek victim. These women get away with hurting their male counterparts viciously because of this, because I'm this petite girl that has looks so sweet and innocent, and really that's just a facade. Underneath, she's a demon. And she can hide behind this young, pretty face. So what's another reason that female abusers are able to hide so well in our society? It's the idea that we must believe all women. That is very, very apparent. That's very pervasive in our society. Modern day feminism often paints the picture that women can do no wrong and men are always wrong. This attitude can prevent women from improving their lives, and it's actually narcissism disguised as empowerment. Like, women can do no wrong. Believe all women. I believe this pervasive stance protects female abusers. To say that we always must believe women, it protects the ones that are abusive. It generalizes all women that a woman's not capable of being abusive. It sends that message. So as a society, then, we automatically are going to believe the woman. It's this approach that pushes society to automatically believe a woman's public claims of abuse, when in reality, it's a well-orchestrated smear campaign against her victim. We learned this with Amber Heard, that believing all women is very dangerous. The feminist movement started originally as a fight for equality with men. And as we're moving the pendulum so far to the other side that we're now promoting female superiority to men rather than female equality. Let me say that again. We're moving the pendulum so far to the other side that we're now promoting female superiority to men rather than equality, because that's what the fight was to begin with, equality. Now it's superiority. And when we have that idea as a society, the female abuser has a protection. And we've seen it. I gave two examples. Courtney Clenny, the police let her get away at first. In my opinion, she should have been arrested right then and there, or questioned, or they let her go. And then Amber Heard, we all know what happened to her, but she got away with it for a long time. She staged this whole smear campaign against her ex-husband, Johnny Depp. I believe she got cheek implants. When she put makeup on her cheek, she obviously got cheek implants. I mean, you can look at her face. No one has she didn't have pointy cheeks like that when she first started out. Then she got some fame with her movie Aquaman. She got her cheek implants. And I think there was redness and some bruises from that. And she just put makeup on it, called the photographers from TMZ, told them she's going to be at the courthouse filing her restraining order against her ex-husband, who was out of the country and she knew it, and put some makeup on it and posed for the photographer. She staged the whole thing. And what do her and Courtney Clenny have in common? They're young, blonde, white women. Society automatically wants to believe them because we must believe all women, right? And it's this that brings me to the next reason female abusers can hide so well. Male victims are often not believed. Abusive relationships always involve an imbalance of power and control, and women aren't the only victims of domestic violence. Domestic violence against men isn't always easy to identify, but it's still a serious threat. If you're a man in an abusive relationship, it's important to understand and to know that you're not alone, guys. Abuse of men happens far often than you might expect in both heterosexual and same-sex relationships. Now, studies suggest that as many as 1 to 3 victims of domestic violence are male. However, men are reluctant to report abuse because they feel embarrassed or ashamed. They fear they won't be believed, and often they are not believed. And why is that? That's because our society, like I've been saying, women are delicate, pretty. You've got to be pretty, your physical appearance. And men, you boys, you shouldn't be crying. You've got to be tough. And if a woman is abusing you, that just means you're a pussy. Pardon the vernacular, but that's our society's view. So sadly, men have good reasons for not speaking up about the abuse. For abused men, there's also a shortage of resources, a lack of understanding from friends and family, legal obstacles, especially if trying to gain custody of their children from an abusive mother. That's a whole other can of worms, family court. That's a whole other can of worms. I'm not going to dive into that, but men have a lot of reasons to fear exposing their female abuser. Society at large just does not believe them. Men may worry that if they leave their spouse will harm their children or alienate them from their children and prevent them from having access to them. And that is a real thing. Obtaining custody of your children is always challenging for fathers. But even if you're confident that you can do so, a man will still feel overwhelmed at the prospect of raising his children alone. So there's a whole bunch of societal issues that make it really difficult for a man to speak out about the woman that he loved, that she's an abuser. A man is more likely to feel shame that he's been abused. I mean, women, we feel shame too, but I think it's a different type of pressure that a man feels from society. He's not macho enough. He's not tough enough. He's not a real man if he lets this tiny blonde woman hit him. It's a different type of shame. And I think also a man feels unable to stand up for himself. If he couldn't stand up for himself, he feels like he's failed as a man and a husband and a father. So what do? Men will stay silent. So if men stay silent and they don't ever report it, those statistics are off. The statistics that say men are the dominant abusers aren't in there. There's no women abusers in these statistics. So the statistics are kind of off when it comes to domestic violence because there's a whole plethora of reasons why a man isn't going to report that he's been abused. And remember guys, domestic violence is not just physical, but women can get just as physical and evil as men. We just, for some reason in our society, we just don't like to talk about it. Another reason is the prevailing stereotypes will protect female abusers. Female narcissists exhibit some of the same behaviors as typical teenage girls. They are the mean girls. This helps them to go unnoticed and they're able to be passed off for just being the mean girl. We kind of accept that in our society. Malignant females who are narcissists are almost as threatening as their male counterparts, but females receive protection through stereotypes such as the sweet young girl, a nurturing mother, and the kind grandma. There's these stereotypes that protect these female abusers. No one thinks the sweet older woman can be vindictive and evil and ruthless. My last podcast, we talked about that, the aging narcissist. Some of the most evil narcissists that I've ever known are old women. And people don't expect a mother to be so self-centered that they're willing to abandon or abuse their children to satisfy their sick need to control. So she gets away with playing the martyr and is rewarded by society for her behavior because historically women have had to fight harder than men to receive equality and basic rights. So that's kind of something that these abusive women will exploit. They will exploit the fact that women have had to fight to receive equality. Historically, women have been treated like property. It's only since the 20th century that women are independent and have been able to vote and been able to own property. It was only in the 80s that I know in the state of Michigan for sure, there was a law on the law books up until the 80s that said a husband couldn't rape his wife. So there is historical evidence that women were oppressed and abused systemically. I don't want to make light of that. Women have been abused systemically by the patriarchy and men for centuries. But we fought for equality. We've gotten a lot of equality. And I'm not going to go off into the weeds about this topic, but that very fact is something that these abusive females will exploit and use to their advantage, because it is a historical fact that women were property and women had no rights and they weren't humans. They were just property. That is a historical fact. And we've rose above all of that. But that's exploited by these female abusers, and society exploits it as well. And it gives these abusive women a shield to protect them. The female narcissist can typically be seen as the martyr or the victorious victim. Their pain is greater than anybody else's pain. Their efforts are bigger than anyone else's efforts, and their suffering is more extraordinary than anyone else's suffering. They exploit that knowledge that we know women have fought for centuries to be treated equally. They have exploited that, and they've used it to their advantage. And these are huge problems in our society, that women can't abuse men. And these are all the reasons why it's so hard for men to come forward. There's so much conditioning and so much just crap, for lack of a better word, that keeps this going. Now, while male narcissists might be more overt in their abuse tactics, male narcissists can have a tendency to be more physically violent. Female narcissists do exist, and they're very dangerous, and they tend to be more manipulative socially and can be incredibly vindictive. They use their appearance as this delicate flower, as this virtuous victim, that they have worked harder than anybody else. A lot of them they are the vulnerable narcissists. They play the victim very, very well. They are more dangerous, in my opinion. Absolutely. Now, if you're a man and you're listening to this and you believe you're being abused by a female narcissist, you're not alone. Don't be afraid to speak up. There are men that understand, and I wish there were more support and there were better resources for men, but you're not alone. And you can still call 1-800-799-SAFE or text START, START, to 88788, and there is a trained advocate ready to speak to you. So if you feel like you're being abused by your wife or girlfriend, don't be afraid. You're not alone. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this podcast. It was a little bit different than what I normally talk about, but it was a topic I felt like was very important. And we as a society need to do better. We need to see each other as human beings. We need to see each other not by our gender or our sexual orientation. We need to see each other as human beings. And we need to understand that abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter what race you are, what religion you are, what your orientation is, what your gender is. We're all humans, and we need to start seeing each other as humans. And sometimes certain humans are capable of horrific abuse, and it's not okay. But we as a society, when we start to shift and see these things and support other humans that have been abused. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you again. If you would like to connect with me, send me an email at unlivingthelie@gmail.com or go to my website at unlivingthelie.com and contact me and send me a message.